Welcome everyone to today's drop-in where we're talking about how to translate processes from Visio to Skore. More than 9 times out of 10, a company will be using some Visio or a form of Visio, to do flow charting, processing, whatever, And so it's a really common question to get in terms of how do we translate that into Skore. So what we've got here is a 15, 10, 20 minute, that kind of session, that sort of length session where I'm going to talk you through the steps I go through to pick up a Visio process and put it into Skore. There will be flavors of this, so there'll be different techniques and the like, but hopefully you'll get this. You'll see some tips and tricks and a bit of hopefully learn something about the approach. So we'll go through a few slides or a few sections here. We'll finish on questions and answers. As always, you can put stuff into the comments, add thoughts and notes as you go through as well. We'll keep an eye on that, but please do engage. So, firstly, why bother? We scored far better than Visio, of course. So why would we want to take our old Visios and put them into Skore? And there's a few sort of big reasons we see time and time again. And it's a lot of the time businesses spent quite a bit of effort. Time, money, especially if you've got external people coming in, building out these processes. They've gone through quite an exercise in doing it. So actually, you want to build on that investment. So don't just throw it away. Build it in as a starting point to then go forward with Skore. And it can also add an amount of credibility. If you've got stakeholders that have gone through this process within the last year and they've got these processes, bringing those in as the starting point to then improve on. You get that adoption, you get that much more buy-in. I mean, it can also fast track the early development of your processes. If you're translating stuff in, you don't need to run workshops to get that initial content in, so you can build out your process library a lot quicker. But the biggest reason I see time and time again as to why you would want to is that Skore way, using universal process notation, it will ask so many questions of a Visio. And I've translated all sorts over the years. Really comprehensive, really good ones. And Skore will always get you to ask those questions against your process, which is really, really good. Any other reasons people can think of why you might want to translate a Visio into Skore? Doesn't have to be. No, we'll move on. Put them in comments if you have anything that you want. So my approach for doing this is, before we jump down into the detail, is a 2-screen setup. I might be teaching you the psychics on this sort of thing, but actually having the content side by side, doing that translation is key. And finding a quiet space, do not disturb, finding some time, because it can take quite a bit of time to get yourself into the mindset. So sort of find that environment where you can really concentrate and block out time to do that. Next about is having your content ready. And it's a set of questions you just need to be asking yourself is, do you have the latest versions? Classic of Visios. We get sent Visios to translate, and 2 days later, oh no, sorry, I sent you the old version because it was updated. Just make sure before you spend that effort, make sure you've got that right in there. If there's a key to it, because there's lots of shapes, lots of symbols, lots of colors, print that out, have that to your side, because you'll be referring to that time and time again. Is there any context? Often when we get content to translate from customers, there might be like a PowerPoint, which goes alongside it to give that context of the program or how was it created, who was it created by. Great. Having a visualization of a diagram is brilliant in Visio, but actually, is there any other information that would be useful to bring that to life? Who's going to be there for questions is a classic one as well, because there'll be acronyms, there'll be points which you need clarifying. And if you've got someone on to hand, especially if you're doing a larger process, having that person is there going to need it. And they get simple question, but when is it needed for? Get those questions asked before you start to jump straight in, because often if we're sent dozens of Visio diagrams, there's normally a sequence as to how you want to do it. When do you need them into? So let's go. So I've got a simple example I'm going to show you. So we'll put this into practice. But these are my steps for how I tackle it. So I will write a purpose first off. People sort of frown at me when I say that. But it gets you to look at the totality of the process and just trying to summarize it into 1 or 2 sentences. Now, it might be completely abstract and you're just doing a real lift and shift. but actually trying to understand and articulate a high level overview for that process is quite key. Finding the start points or point and choosing one. And I pick out the main. We'll look at an example in a sec, but we pick out the main activities, verb, noun, construct, link them all together. Then I'll do some grouping. Then I will look at the exceptions at that point, and then we'll add on any other information and gaps and the like. So there's a sequence to it, but you basically want to. What I always say, and I've been working with Hamza on translating some stuff, is you want to sort of break the back of it. Yeah, get the nub of it. What is that process that you're trying to get, and then you can start to hang everything else off it, and you can see some optional steps there. But let's take a view, and I've chosen quite a simple one just to sort of talk about and show the same principles that apply if it's a complicated one. I'll show you an example of a complicated one. So here we go. So we've got a simple kind of, we submit a purchase order. There's a traveller document, and so we sort of, you can kind of flick through this. You know, we order tooling, we machine usage. This is quite typical of what we would receive. It's a bit simpler maybe than some, but it's using boxes, decision lines. More often than not, there'd be swim lanes on there, but I just simplified this down for that example on there. But it's a sort of a mix of language and questioning and decision boxes and branching. So my first pass translation, we go. So let's have a look at it side by side. So you can see here what I've done is I've put there's an obvious start point on this one, which is quite handy, but it's submit purchase order. That to me sounds like an activity. So, but the fact that it's a different size, I'm assuming that's a link from another process. Yeah, so I'm assuming if I had a sequence of other Visio diagrams, there'd be how to submit a purchase order process, and this is now linking in. So I've kind of turned that into an input in Skore saying purchase order is received. Right, there's a good start for 10. That's what I think my starter process is. Then there's a direct lift and shift of write the traveller. We can do that. Now, write traveller. I don't know what a traveller is. I'm not an expert in this process, so I've left it blank. Yeah, I don't know why we do it. I don't know what that gives us. So if there's an obvious output, I'll add it. If not, let's not guess. Yeah, it's not an exercise in terms of my intelligence of being able to create a process out of thin air about translating what we've got. And some of it will be obvious. So if we go into material in stock is a decision box. Skore does not need to utilize decision boxes. So I've turned that into an activity where someone will be checking that the material is in stock. That sounds logical to me. Now, because it's quite obvious that it's either going to be in stock, because you can see it's a yes, no answer here, or it's not in stock, I add those in. Yeah. I will then go on to the next one. Check tooling is in stock. So I'm assuming it flows, and we can go in there, machine the product, machine usage again, but I'm translating it into verb and noun construct and adding the outputs as I see fit. And then what you'll notice here is I'm just putting it in. Yeah. So if I was to zoom out and show you everything, I'm just put it all onto the single large canvas, just to get that kind of overview in there. And then I've done the exceptions in there. That's it. I've got the basics in there. Yeah. So if I was to follow my steps, that gives me kind of I've written a purpose, which I kind of didn't focus on anymore. I've got all the bits in there which I can see on this process. In fact, that ship to customers is a classic example here. So if I come to the end of this, yeah, I've just put ship to customer question mark because I'm not sure of the end of this scope of process. Don't know. Yeah, we clean and pack something. I'm assuming it's the product, and then what? So it's shipping part of this customer. That would be my first question. What is the scope of this process? Clarifying that is shipping part of this process. Yeah, we've been asking those questions. So that's great. So that would be like I'd be happy with that in terms of my first pass. Not going to leave it there as you might expect. We can come in here. We can say right. So actually, what I've done now, we'll get rid of that. If you want to screenshot in that in your brain, please do. But what we're going to do here is I've applied some grouping. Right. So stepping back from that process there, I've looked at it and I've broken it down into 3 chunks: prepare for production, produce the actual product, and then we inspect and prepare product for shipping. That sounds good. So if I drill down into here, you can see I've just bite-sized it out, and then I will start to play around with this. Yeah, so if I go to edit mode into here, if we have the information available, or they've sent it off. In other words, I'll be starting to say, right, who writes the traveller? Yeah. What I'll also be doing at this point is saying, actually, I'm not even sure what the traveller is. Let's add a traveller item into the glossary and get someone to define that at a later point. Yeah, because that needs clarification in my mind. And we can then say, right, who does this? And I'm not going to guess too much in here, but if we've got production. Yeah, production. I reckon the production manager does that. We start to layer on any other information that the Visio or supporting documentation, that context might have. So we put roles, systems, and any outputs that we might be able to clearly articulate. What you can also do at this point is put explicit questions out on the canvas as well. Yeah, because someone's going to have to review this. So you can say, well, what is the traveller? And what format is it in? So you can start to just annotate your process with those questions, bringing it out onto the canvas. So when you do review, either sending it out or the like, you can kind of have those explicit information in there. And then you might even start to hook it up as well. So you might say, actually, I want to link this off to the next process. Yeah, so you can start to link it off into the other. You can get the idea. You get the idea. Yeah, as we start to hook across. So that's it. So that's really how we would do that in terms of a very simple process. Appreciate that. Just as a way of example, because I'd love to spend ages looking at this. Here, these are kind of high level. I'm not expecting you to read this, but these are kind of quite generic examples of content we get in every time and time again. Does this look familiar to anyone in terms of what if I said a Visio process? Yeah, Julian's just nodding. It's exactly, and you can see here without even reading it. We've got different colours going on. We've got icons on here. We've got the swim lanes, which is a classic way of looking at it. It doesn't matter how complicated the process is. I would follow those steps. Like try and break the back of it. What's the purpose? What is it trying to do? If for really large processes, I might start to group before I've got all of it translated. Yeah, so I start to chunk it down for my own sanity more than anything else. Okay. So that's my approach. That's sort of how I would go against just starting to put your processes from Visios into Skore. What next? Well, I think I've already hinted at it. You would want to be running workshops. Yeah, is the ideal. You can invite people in and share. You can share the process and get good feedback that way. But you wouldn't be sitting down with the person who owns that process, maybe the original person who was part of the documentation of it, and just put those gaps. Why do we do this? Ask all those questions that Skore and UPN ask you to do, and just add that color. Add more detail into boxes and just enrich them. Start on it. The next thing you'd want to do is to embed it into your organization, by which I mean set a process owner, set reviews up. We don't want to get to the point where someone's having to translate this again because it's gone out of date. So to get it all set up and start tracking the health of that process over time in Skore. Lastly, we've got some questions. I've put some common questions we hear when I was prepping this, just in case you guys were going to be quiet. But if you've got any more questions, please do. Either come off mute or the like. But these are really, really common questions we hear time and time again. Or can I import Visio diagrams into Skore? That'd be great, wouldn't it? Magic button to kind of do that. The issue we have with that, or the challenge we have with that, is I've shown you 3 different processes in Visio that we've received in Visios, and they're all completely different. So it's tough, because Visio can be used in 101 different ways. Just creating a translation tool that works at the click of a button is very, very difficult. That's not to say we're not working on some very cool stuff which might start to help that as well. So watch this space on that. The other one we get more recently is have you thought about AI doing it? Surely an AI bot can pick up my videos and they're like, we are experimenting quite heavily with this. Yeah, it's quite an exciting tool, which obviously can be applied to what we do. What we found is that actually AI can read and understand and interpret a UPN diagram very well. It's very structured. It's got a lot of information in it. Yeah, so if you start to point it in that, and the experiments we've been running there, that's quite cool. Do the same with Visios, and it's very ad hoc. It's very hit and miss. So not to say, so we're looking at it very very excitedly, because I think there is a place for it in this sort of work. The third one about this time, do I have to really translate them in? The short answer is no. Yeah, so quite common for customers to come to us saying we've got hundreds of videos. I don't want to sit there and translate them all in. I don't need to do that. Well, you don't have to. What's really common is for people to create a high level end-to-end flow or a process architecture and link to them. Yeah, that's great. You reuse that ability, and then that falls into the last question of when would I typically translate a video. You can then pick it off when that process is being looked at, or when it's being changed, or when it's being impacted by a project. So you don't have to do everything, especially if you've got quite a lot of content. That's quite daunting, but you still reuse it. Hook it into Skore, link to it, and then you can translate it over time as and when needed, and as and when you're building out your process library and you've got those skills and helps to do that. So that's my session in terms of an introduction. I'd say, there's not been a Visio I haven't been able to translate yet. That's not to say there isn't one out there. I do find it very interesting, because I keep saying you do break the back of a big Visio. It will look amazingly complex, but once you start to pick a thread or two out, you can then start to hang that information on it. Don't try and do it all at once. Yeah, try and get that framework in place. Assume it works. Follow those steps that I'm sort of suggesting here, and then you can start to add information on there. But keep asking those questions.